YouTube going, the Godows is back, and I'm really excited about today's updated mock draft. I have 6 trades, 6 in the first round alone, and an additional trade in the second round of this mock, so I'm excited to break it down. Really felt good about this one here. Join us on our channel because we have all kinds of NFL draft content and more to come leading up to the draft, during the draft, after the draft. We'll be live streaming day one of the NFL draft right here on YouTube. So like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow us on Twitter, very important. Live news, rumors, updates, a lot going, a lot of rumors floating around, and then live analysis on every single pick from rounds 2 through 7. So make sure you follow that Twitter. Bonus content on for Twitter subscribers, of course. Links pinned in the comments for that. Our Discord and our sponsors, GLD Shop, who has some sick jewelry. They have the same chain that Micah Parsons wears in-game. I have it on right now. They have more NFL teams and players. Liquid IV, Walk the Mock. Those are our sponsors. Links pinned in the comments. Check it all out. Again, check out our recent videos. You won't be disappointed. Shout out to the graphics guy. We're updating the graphics here for the mock draft. Let me know your guys' thoughts about these graphics and the style of it in the comments. But I'm going to be a little stubborn, maybe a lot of stubborn with the first overall pick. I'm going to stick with CJ Stroud to the Carolina Panthers first overall. And it very well could be Bryce Young. A lot of people believing that right now. A lot of smart people believing that right now. For me, I mean, I'm not going to guarantee anything here. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to be CJ Stroud. But for me, I have a hard time believing that a test, talking about the S2 test, is a reason that they're going to go Bryce Young all of a sudden. It really felt like they wanted Stroud from the start. I think people are pretty much agreeing with that. What's pretty much being put out there is that the test and maybe more film, I guess, helped them decide that they're switching over to Bryce Young. But to me, the Panthers trade away a big piece in DJ Moore and a bunch of picks to go up and get a guy that they already watched live a bunch of times, even over guys they watched live a bunch of times, and guys they watched tape on, a guy that McCown liked a lot, a guy like Frank Reich liked a lot, and they decided it was CJ Stroud. And then you're telling me a test score comes along and then they're going to change their mind. I just don't think things work like that. I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe they change their mind. Niners changed their mind in the past. A few years ago, we saw that. So we'll see, but I'm just having a hard time believing that stuff. I think that CJ Stroud was meant to be the guy from the start for the Panthers, and they're kind of playing games with the Texans maybe, just trying to get them to trade up one spot, get some picks back, but because they know they can still get their guy perhaps. That's my thinking there. So I'm going to go with CJ Stroud first overall to the Carolina Panthers. And then number 2, I'm going to go Bryce Young. I think a lot of us agree. Maybe you don't agree that Bryce Young's going to be here at 2, but we agree that if Bryce Young is there, the Texans will take him. But things do get interesting because if Bryce Young is not there, what do? It sounds like they may not go quarterback here, or it sounds like they may actually like Will Levis over CJ Stroud. I even hear some people saying they like Will Levis over everyone. Maybe they go Will Levis here at 2, even with Bryce Young on the board. Hard for me to believe that, but I've heard a little bit of that, so it'd be interesting. Also heard they could take a defensive player here and then trade up with the other pick to take the quarterback. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense to me. If you really have to have a quarterback, you get him. You don't worry about gambling and trading up then as your second pick. I don't know. But in my scenario, in my predict the pick scenario, I still have Bryce Young to the Texans at 2. I said I had 6 trades in the first round alone. Here's our first one. The Lions are trading up. The Lions and the Cardinals are swapping picks. You see the details are on your screen. 3 and 6 swap. The Cardinals get 2 second-round picks then. After getting 6. Remember, the Lions have 2 second-round picks, but they give up 1 this year and then 1 next year. Although that made sense in terms of value. The Cardinals are going to get a little bit more value than the Lions here, obviously. Lions are moving up. 3 is a pretty valuable pick. Not as valuable 1 or 2, of course, but yeah, so that kind of makes sense in the Cardinals' plan going forward. They don't move. The worry with the Cardinals is moving back too far. People are talking about somebody's going to trade up, grab a quarterback. Say not so fast. I think it's definitely possible. But maybe media, like always, is overhyping some of these quarterbacks and forgetting about arguably the best player in the draft, and Will Anderson. Maybe the Lions trade up for a quarterback that could be a wild card. We've talked about that in the past. I know the fans weren't thrilled about that. I think they would be thrilled about something like this. Maybe. But yeah, going up and getting Will Anderson, a guy that could do a bit of everything at the edge rush position, like Hutchinson, where he can put his hand in the dirt on the line of scrimmage and stand up a bit as well. I think that'd be a dynamic duo, elite duo of the future. I'd be worth it for the Lions, especially that they hold on to that other first-round pick, where the Cardinals could start the negotiations like, hey, yeah, we'll do it. Give us that pick. It's just too valuable. It's just too valuable there. So In the Cardinals, yeah, maybe don't want to move back too far because maybe they have their mind made up on a certain player or two, and they don't want to move back too far, like I said. So the Lions move up, and they grab Will Anderson, create that potential elite duo of, let's say, future, maybe near future there. And the Lions, take that next step, being a legit playoff team, perhaps. And then 4th overall, we're going to go Will Levis. It's something I'm hearing recently, which, some stuff is going to be smoke and some stuff isn't. And this could be, I'm not buying the Bryce Young stuff, but maybe the latest news here could be smoke. But it sounds like the Colts have Levis rated ahead of Anthony Richardson. And this very well could be smoke because it's right around where news is coming out that the Cardinals might be shopping the 3rd pick, and maybe they're making teams believe they don't need to hop over the Colts to take Richardson because they like Levis. So maybe they're playing mind games with teams, but sounds like they like Levis. I've been hearing good things about Levis very, very recently. I was starting to kind of move him down because it's a little risky of a pick. Very risky. Some, minor injuries popping up last year. So is that going to be a thing going forward? The mechanics are off, upper body, lower body, a little crazy with the ball, obviously. So, but I've been hearing good things. He's interviewed very well with teams. And it sounds like there was an interview with scouts and executives, and they pulled multiple of them actually, and they talked about the quarterback ceilings and their floors. And Anthony Richardson's floor goes all the way back to 15, according to those executives / scout, mixture of executives and scouts. Levis says he won't get outside the top 10. He'll actually go before. The floor will be inside the top 10. And I just keep hearing good things. Based on league feedback recently, like their thoughts, could be smoke. Doesn't really feel like it right now, but definitely could be. It is smoke season. So the Colts go Levis instead of Richardson. Maybe they feel like, yeah, I've heard this as well. Like Levis is actually a little more pro-ready, and I could agree with that. Richardson's got more upside. They both got upside, but Levis a little more pro-ready. The Colts, Ballard on thin ice. Steichen's just been winning ball games. He's coming in, wants to win right away. Irsay is kind of sick of it, wants to get back on track. Maybe they want to go with a guy that has upside, but also can help them a little bit more right now. Not as raw as the other guy, perhaps. So I guess it could make sense. So Levis to the Colts at 4. And then pick 5, Jalen Carter. Yeah, could slide a little bit. Not taking interviews outside the top 10. Something to me tells me that could be because he could, if he does make it outside the top 10, he knows where he's going to land, or he could land on this team, that team. And there's a couple teams that actually have picks that he could interview with, or he did interview with inside the top 10, Lions and Seahawks, that also pick outside the top 10. So, but I think you'd have to take him if you want him that bad, which he's an elite talent. Skip the off the field issues for a second here. He's an elite talent, so you'd have to take him around here. I think the Seahawks would definitely be interested in pairing him up with Draymond Jones, with a different style interior defensive lineman, and it really can boost first their run defense, I should say, because it was god awful last year. And it gets that interior pressure. So is Draymond Jones. It can elevate the play of the edge rushers around him, Nwosu, if they want to keep going with Darrell Taylor, guys like that. So that made some sense to me. I mean, just watch the tape. He's ridiculous. So some teams gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna work on the off the field issues. Really, it's just kind of one issue. What he is out of football activity, I guess we'll say. It's just kind of one thing they got to put a stop to. So it's not pretty serious situation what actually happened, but it's not like there's multiple off the field things going on, I suppose. I'm really not the off the field issues guy, but so somebody's bound to take a shot in just the raw talent here. So he goes 5th. 6th, so the Cardinals traded back. There's the trade details once again. We already talked about them when we were at the Lions. They moved back 3 spots. Third pick is pretty valuable, but they moved back only 3 spots, and they grabbed 48, which is a second-round pick this year, and a second-round next year. So it helps the Cardinals in their rebuild situation. And I think they could be looking for a corner. This could be a pass rusher. It could be an offensive tackle. I really like Paris Johnson for them as a fit, and they could really be valuing that, pairing a guy with DJ Humphries of the future. But I think Gannon's really going to like Christian Gonzalez, his ability to play press zone, press man. That's what he'll like there. He'll really value corners. It was kind of what kind of created that. More things did it, on the Eagles defense, but it started with those corners. Lockdown corners be able to mix it up, press off, playing zone, man. So they'll like Gonzalez for that reason could be Witherspoon. But one with Christian Gonzalez here on the trade back for the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of teams calling them already about that. So we'll see who does it. It could be a number of teams, and it could be for a number of different positions, players. We'll see. We have another trade here. Here is the second trade of 6 in the first round, and we have an additional one. So I have the Texans and the Raiders trading. I have the Texans moving up. We heard they can move up. I've heard that they can take a defensive player at 2, and then they can move up and take a quarterback. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's not like it doesn't, I'm not saying it's just makes 0 sense, but I think this makes a little more sense to me. Take that quarterback at 2. Quarterback should be a must-have guy. If you're going to take a quarterback anywhere in the first round, he should be that must-have, franchise-changing guy. So you're going to take him where he could be that guy when you have the opportunity. Tyree Wilson, I've been watching the edge rushers, finishing up on the edge rushers lately, and Tyree Wilson's a guy I might not be as high on as other people. Other people kind of calling him elite prospect. I'm not there looking at him as just an edge rusher because the lack of get off is really throwing me off. He's a really good run defender. He's got the freaky length and some power. But why I would kind of change my opinion, sometimes every year if you watch us, there's like certain guys that I like better once I see where they land, and it's just because of fit. Tyree Wilson I would like a lot better in DeMeco Ryans' defense. I love this fit because Wilson, as an edge guy, doesn't blow my mind. Isn't an elite guy. I see the potential. He's really good. Freaky dude, some rare traits to him. But to me, he's almost an interior defensive lineman play style in an edge rusher's body, but then again, he kind of has the power to play the interior. So I'm thinking DeMeco Ryans uses this guy like an Arik Armstead, who is a defensive end that slides in the 3 technique, and you can kind of use him as a mismatch on the inside against guards. I would absolutely love that. So immediately I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'm a little lower on Wilson than everyone else, but then I might like this more than everyone else, So it's one of those situations. Those are kind of rare, but they got maybe 1 in the first round every year, maybe 2, maybe none that end up being like that for me. But we see the trade. 7-12 swap. Texans and Raiders. And then the Texans have 2/3 actually. So the Raiders aren't going to get a second-round pick here because 7-12, some good value at 7, but 7-12, not a huge swap, and it's not like we're in the top 3. But the Raiders will get 2/3, which actually ends up being more than enough value. So the Texans will get 109 back. So it's basically swap 7 for 12. And the Raiders get 65, which is an early 3rd-round pick. And then it's a big swap going from the Raiders going from 109 to 73. So that made a lot of sense to me. And the Texans get an ultimate fit here who they'll like. I don't think he'll be for everyone, Tyree Wilson. But I think DeMeco Ryans would love him, would absolutely love him there at 7. Pick 8 is going to be the Falcons, who may want Tyree Wilson, perhaps a trade up just ahead of him. The Texans would make some sense. But I like Myles Murphy a lot. If we're just talking just purely an edge rusher right now and even the future, because Murphy's still young, he's a freaky dude, a lot of upside, just pure edge rusher, like nothing else, no sliding inside. I'm saying Murphy actually better right now as an edge rusher than Tyree Wilson. I love his get off. I like the bull rush is nasty, using his length and his strength. He could add more pass rush moves, but somebody can coach that very easily. He's really good stopping a run. Teams were just dumping the ball off quick against Clemson for a reason, because they had a really good defensive line and led by Myles Murphy. So I think he'll be way more productive in the NFL. I think he would fit that Falcons somewhat new look defense with Ryan Nielsen. They already added leading the way as a defense coordinator, but they already had some interior defensive linemen. So I would like this fit here. They could take Tyree Wilson if he's there. I would not mind Myles Murphy at all for them. So that is the 8th pick. We got the 3rd trade out of 6 in the first round. And this one's been getting some buzz lately. I heard 2 separate things. I heard Steelers, Bears. Steelers already could be interested in the Bears pick. They're not talking about trading now. Some people were saying there's no way. Well, yeah, there's no way they're going to trade it now. But teams kind of make the call. Hey, if this guy, or they're not going to say with the name, but if it's on the board, we might trade up with you. We'll kind of be value just to kind of ballpark it right now. That's what happens. It makes sense. And then I heard a separate source say that watch out for the Bears pick at 9 and the Eagles pick at 10. Trading back, somebody could move up. So putting those 2 together, it can make some sense. Steelers looking for maybe that last piece of the puzzle on offense for the future, and that is left tackle. And they're trying to run a lot more outside zone lately. Paris Johnson Jr. makes a ton of sense, in terms of that fit, the left tackle. Broderick Jones, I see the upside and outside zone, didn't play a whole lot of it. At Georgia, but I do like the upside there. It's a bit of a gamble, especially trading up for a guy like Broderick Jones. Bit of a gamble, and they'll feel really comfortable with Paris Johnson Jr. So trade is 9 through 17. A swap there. Pittsburgh and Chicago. Chicago trades back again, gets more picks. The Steelers have 2 second-round picks. One is actually from Chicago. Maybe they would give up that 32nd pick and give it back to Chicago. Something would have to go back to Pittsburgh, though, because that is just definitely too valuable. That's basically a 32nd pick. It's basically a first-round pick. It is too valuable, so something would have to go back, and that would kind of defeat the purpose for the Chicago Bears, and the Steelers might not want to give that pick up anyways. So they get the other second-round pick, which isn't too far off. That's at 49. And that actually, consulting the trade value chart, is a tiny bit more value for the Chicago Bears, believe it or not. But yeah, the Steelers coming way up, maybe taking a guy the Bears could consider taking. I think they would have to give up a little bit more. The Bears seem to be interested in future picks, so I do think it would actually have to take more than 49. If they're not giving up 32, which they're not unless they're getting something back, 49, then they'll have to give up a little bit more here. So a future 4th-round pick would be good for both sides actually there. So the Steelers could save, from giving up another pick this year, which they don't want to do. And they get to hold on to that early 2nd-round pick. And they go up and get their starting left tackle. I think would be the best fit. Darnell Wright's my favorite tackle in the class, but Paris Johnson for the Steelers would be my favorite fit for them. So they go up to 9 and grab him. So there, yet another trade there at 9. We're going to have more of those to come here. And this might be a little bit, I got some surprises in here besides the trades. This really shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but no one's mocking it. No one's talking about it. The Eagles are very, very good at not only identifying the right talent on the offensive line, but getting it at the right time before it is too late. They don't want to need one during a season and then have to panic for one. They never want to do that. They're very smart when it's their offensive line. And you got a great one here. Peter Skoronski, who could be a really good tackle or guard. He's projecting as a guard. More teams want him as a guard. He's probably going to be a Pro Bowl guard, especially with the Eagles. So projected lineup this year, they lost Sumalo, but Juergens is supposed to shift over to guard. They drafted him as a center. He played, 1 snap at guard last year. He played more than a handful at guard, but not a whole lot. At center. 20 or so snaps, 30 or so. So they drafted him for center because they thought Kelce was going to retire, and if he didn't, he was going to retire another year, and that's the case. Kelce came back, he's going to retire after this year. Perfect world is Juergens plays center in the future. It's kind of an unknown at the guard position still. Maybe you like the upside there, but you get even better here. The Eagles don't play games when it comes to the offensive line. They don't really gamble. They know how important it is, and you got a really good one with Pro Bowl upside, early Pro Bowl upside as a guard. This pick actually makes a lot of sense to me. And it's really not being talked about a lot. So that is pick 10 there. The Eagles taking Peter Skoronski. 11. So in this scenario, Anthony Richardson ended up slipping through, and it sounds like the Titans maybe could move up for a quarterback, and maybe they just sit put and they take Richardson at 11. Remember we had Levis going to the Colts. There's some talk about that, and I think you get to a certain point where I don't know if teams really need to trade up anymore. I mean, you really shouldn't have to worry about the Falcons. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a gamble letting the Falcons pick. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. A lot of people agree with that as well. Draft's about some risks there, but there's no one else that I really think it'd have to be a pretty far trade up, in my opinion. So Titans could wait. They take Anthony Richardson again. Some scouts and executives think his floor could be 15, so we're not even hitting that floor yet. I mean, he could go 4, maybe 3 if somebody trades up there, but it is a little bit of a project. So it's possible he slips through a little bit. So the Titans land him at 11 without having to trade up. That could be pretty good for them, obviously. And then 12, remember we had that trade. The details are on your screen. The Texans and the Raiders swap picks. And then the Raiders take Darnell Wright. I thought about Darnell Wright at 7 for the Raiders. I've been hyping him up, and now he's starting to get a lot of hype too. Very interesting. He's starting to get a lot of buzz. So he can go a lot earlier than what people think. It's a big-time right tackle. I heard some teams like him at guard, but man, he's such a good tackle that I would keep him there. A bully of a blocker, doesn't get the credit for the footwork. People just think he's a bully blocker, power, big, so he can't have the movement skills, but he does. The Raiders could use a right tackle. I mean, he could be a Pro Bowl guard if they want him to be that, but he perfectly fits Josh McDaniels' scheme as well. Gap scheme guy, coming from Tennessee, going to the Raiders. It just makes a lot of sense. So to kind of recap the trade, if the Raiders fans want to hear, yeah, they moved back from 7 to 12. I think Darnell Wright is an option at 7 as well, but they moved back. And then they gained that 65th pick, which is a 3rd round. And then they kind of swap. Big swap, 109 all the way up to 73. So they will have 3 third-round picks early in that draft by just going from 7 to 12 in that round, I should say. So that made sense in terms of value there, and they still get their guy, plug-and-play right tackle. Or, again, some guys like him. Some teams may like him at guard, but really good right tackle. 13, I got the Jets taking Broderick Jones, who's a boomer bust guy. I like his upside in an outside zone scheme. He played more gap at Georgia, but the more I watched him, which was very recently, I kind of broke it down in the offensive lineman rankings video. I kind of went really in-depth with him because he's a very intriguing prospect. He's a boomer bust guy. His tape, honestly, isn't that great, but he doesn't have too many reps, believe it or not. He has the least amount of tackles in the draft, again, believe it or not. But a lot of upside, and I think he can fit, what the Jets are trying to do. It's a little bit of a gamble, but they definitely need a tackle in there to protect Aaron Rodgers, if that will be their quarterback this year. So Broderick Jones goes 13. 14, we have another trade. The Patriots and the Giants, pretty big trade here. The Giants come up to 14. The Patriots are going to drop back to 25, and there's some different picks obviously involved in there. It's a pretty big drop back and move up for the Giants here. The Patriots, we talked about in the past, we had scenarios where they trade up to get that tackle because they're looking for a tackle. So they could look to move up. They could stay put. Remember, they kind of stood their ground with Mac Jones. They had a feeling he would drop to them, so they could do the same thing, for a big-time tackle, and the ones that really fit up in this range of the draft are off the board. Some people say maybe they would take Devon Witherspoon. It seems like a Belichick corner, man corner. Yeah, I agree with that. It seems like a fit. I don't know if they would take a corner this high. Just don't know. But it's possible. Just don't know about it. So they move back, and the Giants move up. Need another corner. As it is, WR-JAXON on an expiring contract as well, who's a very solid corner. And Witherspoon, is a Don Martindale type corner. He won't be pounding the table for a corner like this. He'll be standing on the table for a corner like this, and he's slipping through a little bit. He could go up where I had Gonzalez going. I think one of those corners, whoever doesn't go up there, is probably going to slip through because teams are going to start to take those elite defensive players, which these guys could be elite defensive players, but the defensive linemen and the offensive linemen and the quarterbacks, those are the guys that be coming off the board. So one guy can slip through a little bit. Run on tackles kind of just happened in quarterbacks. So the Giants can move up and grab him. So 14 for 25 swap, and then you have a 2nd and a 3rd going to the Patriots because it is pretty far movement. 2nd and a 4th is just too cheap. 2nd and a 3rd, actually a little bit more value. So 135 going back to the Giants, but they get a starting corner for a long time and maybe create an elite corner duo if they keep Adoree-Jackson around as well. They're just perfect for Martindale's scheme there, that man coverage defense. They run more man than anybody in the NFL. So if he starts to slip, kind of makes sense. Giants team to watch, maybe trading up for a guy like that. But it is a pretty far move up. 15, Packers taking Jackson Smith-Njigba. Be a perfect situation. They badly need another receiver just because their receiver room is kind of thin. And Jordan Love, getting a guy for him would be perfect, and getting a separator like Smith-Njigba would be perfect. And also, they could use a slot receiver because Watson plays more outside, kind of a gadget guy at times, and Dobbs is also an outside. They could use a slot receiver here, and that's what Smith-Njigba is. So the Packers grab him at 15. 16, we got another trade. And this made a lot of sense. Washington, they made some interesting picks the last couple of years, and they traded back last year as well. I like what I did for them. I don't know if I love if they did this because it's a predict a pick. It's not what I would do, but I love kind of my prediction here because it made a lot of sense with Washington. Last year, John Dotson ended up being really good as a rookie. Everyone knew he's a good ball player out of Penn State. But everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's probably an early 2nd round guy. Just were we, predicting where he would go. Maybe, just maybe late first. Washington traded back, and they grabbed him over other receivers, and it just felt like that going into the day, they knew they were going to take Dotson. They knew they were probably going to trade back and take Dotson. And then the year before that, We were mocking them Jamin Davis, and everyone was like thrown off by that. But I kept hearing it was kind of quiet that they were going to take him, and people were like, no, So and they end up doing it. So for Washington, so I think they can move back and maybe surprise people with a pick again here. But 16 and 20 swap, not too much movement there. 83, that's almost like right on exact value in my opinion. So 83 goes to Washington. They move back, get the guy that they think fits best, and they grab 83. So Lucas Van Ness started slipping through a little bit. And I've been watching the edge rushers, and my thoughts on the edge rushers are a lot different than others, I think, but I have Will Anderson at the top, but Van Ness I wasn't really thrilled with, but you do see the upside. I just really don't understand the hype when talking about him in the top 10. Somebody's going to take a shot at him because of his upside and his versatility with on the line, standing up, outside, inside. Seahawks should use another pass rusher here to pair with Jalen Carter, who they just drafted in this scenario. So they move up and get him. They make sure they hop over teams that could take him here, like who's picking next now in this scenario, the Bears, possibly. But yeah, it's a kind of a boomer. It's a gamble pick. It's a gamble pick to me. There's some other pass rushers that are kind of being talked about as second round guys that I have kind of in the same conversation as him, and they actually might be safer picks. So it's an interesting one for sure. But the Seahawks, as he starts to slip, they move up and grab him because they need a pass rusher. They passed on a pass rusher earlier in this scenario, so they make sure they grab their guy here. Then 17, it's a little bit bold based on what people have been predicting the Bears. Well, I had the Bears moving back, and I have them taking a corner. No one's really mocking them in the corner. I'd actually watch out for maybe not exactly this, but this I think actually could happen, though, the realistic trade. But I'd watch out for a corner, actually. The Bears might be a little unpredictable in this draft. If the right guy isn't there, they might, surprise some people. But they have Jalen Johnson, who's a solid corner. And they drafted Kyler Gordon last year, which people forget they actually played a lot in the slot. They really got him going in the slot. And size-wise and his play style does kind of feel like a slot-type guy. So they actually could use an outside corner. And Eberflus is really going to value corners. Looking for corners that could press like they're in man, but show man, but going to be a lot of cover too. And you want to ride with the guy as long as you can before having to go up into your flats, would be the corner zone. So they're very important for Eberflus. And Joey Porter, the length and physicality says he has upside as a press guy, but he played quite a bit of zone. He played man and zone, but quite a balance of both. So, and they're really like that. So they move back to 17 and get a corner. And a bonus here, they got standout safety last year, Jaquan Brisker, Penn State guy. It's not why they take Porter. It's kind of a bonus here that I just thought of. That'd be pretty cool. So the Bears, end up getting a second round, and they're going to have a collection of second round picks. So that'll be fun. And they get a future pick, which they're gathering up because they're still rebuilding. They're looking out for the future. They're kind of set for the future. Not a right now team, but they're looking pretty. It might be the team of the future if things, if Fields gets going. Well, if not, then they got picks for if they do need a quarterback. So they're looking pretty good for the future, and they add some more picks, which is definitely a possibility here. So they move back and surprise people, take a corner. Could definitely see that. Number 18 is the Detroit Lions. They take Deonte Banks, a really good press corner that could also play zone, but better in man. Like his upside in zone, though. But the Lions traded away Okudah. Probably wasn't going to start either way, but they still liked his upside. He was getting some snaps still. He was going to get some snaps still. So, they still could use a corner. It's just tricky to tell when, they could take one with the earlier pick. They could wait to the second round because they have 2 second-round picks. Well, we traded one away in this scenario, and they'll like Banks and his man coverage ability. So they take him at 18. 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Hendon Hooker. Hooker's been getting a lot of buzz. I could still see a scenario where he goes second round, but been getting a lot of buzz, and I see the talent there. I think as long as he's healthy, it's kind of a plug-and-play quarterback. The mechanics are already polished, and I really like the fit with the Buccaneers. A lot of similar things, that Tennessee did. Some different too. Not everyone's running the wide splits every pass play like Tennessee, but some of this similar blocking schemes, things like that, and they can run Hooker a bit. I think he'll be able to run still post-injury. So it made sense as a fit. You get your quarterback of the future here at 19. So I think I've had that before. So the Commanders traded back. They traded with Seattle, 16-20 swap. They grab 83 at pretty much perfect, exact value there across the board. And they take Steve Avila, which this might be a surprising pick. It's not why I did it. What I'm about to say, the Commanders make some surprising picks the last few years. It's not really why, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. They could move back a little bit. AVILA has mainly been talked about as a second-round guy, been getting some buzz. People think he's a safe pick. They like the versatility because he could play center, and he's actually lined up at right tackle, but he'd be a really good guard. They bring in Bijan. Bijan's going to value adding a big-time guard in there, which they definitely need. And they could use a left tackle in the future as well. But AVILA will fit that. Maybe like what he found in Trey Smith in Kansas City. So Bijan would like a guy like this. This could be Osiris Torrance as well from Florida, which is usually mocked before AVILA, and I do think he's a little bit better than AVILA, but it's kind of the feeling I had. They could go defense. They could go Brian Branch or a corner, but it's kind of the feeling I had here. And this is kind of a Washington-type move. So we'll see. They could move back a little bit. Maybe it'd be a surprising pick. It would feel a little early because it's not the most athletic guard, and you can usually find starting guards in the second or third round. So, I'm not saying I 100% agree with it. I do think he'd be good for them. It'd be a really good fit, but it's just something I really could see here with that trade with, we'll say, Seattle in this scenario at 20. 21, Chargers take Jordan Addison. Yeah, Jordan Addison could possibly go earlier in this. I threw some different scenarios in my head where Addison was the first receiver off the board, a realistic scenario, and that would be, I had the Texans trading up. Remember in this mock draft, if I had them not trading up and sitting put, I actually think they would like Addison better than Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think they would view Addison as a fit in that style offense they're trying to run. So that'd be something to watch out for. Him going maybe before JSN to surprise some people, or just to go earlier in this. I think this is kind of the floor. I'm actually putting this at the floor, but if we want to say max floor, like if I'm wrong and there's another floor, I look at the next couple picks. I look at the Ravens. I look at the Vikings. And if you want to go even lower, I don't see it, but going that low. But if the Giants stay put down at their pick, possibility. But like the absolute bottom floor of the Vikings, I don't think they would pass on Jordan Addison. But I don't think the Chargers are going to pass on Jordan Addison. So I might mock this the rest of the way. Unless he's gone off the board, then I'll be giving the Chargers somebody else. 22, we have another trade. Another trade, folks. The Ravens move back. The Bills move up. I've been hearing the Bills can move up. Been hearing that. To me, it's like, you weren't too active in free agency. And they got some guys here and there, but they lost some pieces as well. Maybe they would be better off gaining picks, trading back a little bit. But I keep hearing they could move up a little bit. 27 to 22 could do it. We saw them move around last year. And maybe they finally give in. They get a receiver. And to me, Zay Flowers, who's been getting buzz, and they would probably have to hop the Vikings. I don't know if the Vikings would take them and the Bills would take him. They could, but the Bills might be worried that they might. So they grab Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers to me seems like a Bills receiver. A lot of upside in the slot, more experience outside, but you start in a slot, you can move outside when Diggs is inside. It makes a lot of sense. It just seems like a Bills type receiver, what they're looking for. And again, he's been getting a lot of buzz, like he's going to go a little bit earlier. So I'd expect somewhere around this range. Could go late one. Wouldn't shock me if he went early two. It's about the same thing. So 22 and 27 swap, and then a big swap. Buffalo goes down to 157. Baltimore gets 91. So that made sense, actually, like really, really like right on in terms of value, I guess, in my opinion. But so the Bills go up and get their guy. In terms of the Ravens, I'd watch out for them trading back and maybe making a pick that not everyone's expecting, but mainly trade between the Ravens 22, the Vikings 23. I'm actually going to say, this might be a little bold, not that bold. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I'm kind of close. Between the Ravens and the Vikings, 22 and 23, I'll say at least one of those teams is going to trade back. I'm pretty confident saying that. Kind of a weird thing to be confident about. Ravens, Vikings, I think both could trade back. Both could. I think one will. Could be wrong, but I think those teams are looking for more picks. Unless somebody really, really good falls to them. And that's why I didn't have the Vikings trading back, because I think Brian Branch is an excellent fit. There's other good fits, too. They're off the board. But Brian Branch, who's probably going to go a little earlier than people think. Some people are talking about, and this is kind of late first, but he honestly, it wouldn't blow my mind if he went up, like the Eagles pick. Like somewhere around there. It wouldn't really, because he's really good. He's smart. He's instinctive. He's a really good man coverage guy. Slot guys are more and more value. Teams are dropping more back in coverage. Base defenses are now including a slot, guy. That's just how it is. And you got a guy that is a slot defensive back, dominant man coverage, very instinctive, but also can play safety for you. I mean, I think he can line up at outside corner if you absolutely needed him to as well. So Vikings man coverage guy, Brian Flores in there, man coverage guy, get an instinctive playmaker here. So that made a lot of sense there. So Vikings could trade back. Keep hearing that they definitely could try to get the second round pick back or just add picks. I don't know if they would be able to get a second unless they move way back, but yeah, couldn't pass on Branch here. 24, the Jags take O'Cyrus Torrence, guard from Florida, plug-and-play guy. I think really fits Doug Peterson's scheme. We've had this in the past before. They could look for a tackle to replace Jawan Taylor. That's definitely a possibility, even though they have Robinson and Walker Little. Injury concern with both, but both very solid. 25 is that trade we had earlier. So there was a big trade. Giants went way up. Patriots went way back. Why? Because the Patriots offense tackles that were worth it in that range were off the board. They could move up to try to get those guys. Maybe one falls to them, but they move back and look, and they'll be picky about their fit too. So they move back and they'll target Anton Harrison with the trade back. I think he's going to go into late 1. Before I was like, maybe an early 2 guy, but now I'm thinking I can't guarantee it, but he's probably going to go late 1. Some similarities in, blocking styles. I know Oklahoma had a unique scheme, but they'll like Harrison. They'll like his size there, and they'll plug and play, start him. So they move back, and they got pretty good picks there, second and the third from a far move back. So that's pretty good for the Patriots, in my opinion. Go back and get a day 1 starting tackle and still get those picks. So that made some sense. Then we got Bijan Robinson to the Cowboys. Very tough to mock. He can go up around the Eagles' range, Falcons, I've heard people say, or he can slip through just because the value of the running back. So the Cowboys grab him at 26. So it's kind of just the bottom, like the floor. He's the one where I'm like, I'm a confident person, but he's the one where I'm like, everyone's probably going to get this wrong. And I'm probably going to get this wrong. I think he's probably going to go somewhere where no one's really expecting. Like, he's going to go somewhere where everyone's going to be going, they got a running back. They didn't need a running back. I have a feeling that's going to happen. So, we'll see. But I don't think he'll make it by the Cowboys at 26. Could the Cowboys move up to make sure they get him? Maybe. 27, this was that trade with the Ravens, the Bills and the Ravens. The Ravens moved back because they're looking for more picks. They weren't able to be too active in free agency outside of OBJ, which was a big one, but a 1-year deal. And DaWand Jones, which nobody's really mocking them, an offensive lineman. They could look for corner, but all the good corners in that range were off the board. There's a lot more good corners, but for that range. But DaWand Jones actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a fit. Scheme-wise, Ohio State actually ran a lot of outside zone, which the Ravens really don't run. But if you just watch DaWand Jones and understand his body type and his strengths, like he's going to fit the Ravens. This is kind of Orlando Brown Jr. That the Ravens once had for a right tackle. Bully of a run blocker, which the Ravens really like to run the football. And they're going to try to pass more, of course, but it's a really good fit there. And he's got upside in terms of a gap scheme guy. I'm going to have an early second-round grade on him, but we're getting close to that range. So the Ravens move all the way up to 91 while moving back just 5 spots here. So that made a lot of sense. Really good fit. I know they have Morgan Moses, who played all right last year, but that's no guarantee for the future. It's not a guy that's part of their long-term plans. And, of course, you have injury concern across the offensive line usually with all teams, but usually the Ravens do. So they could go that shouldn't be surprising, but surprisingly could go that offensive line route. Could go guard or tackle. Could go corner. Been here in pass rusher. I don't know, though. I guess depends on who's on the board. We will see. 28. Nolan Smith, I had slipping through a little bit. The combine hit, and he was ridiculous. And we see the upside, and everyone moved him up, including myself. Now I'm watching edge rush tape. I'm really late with the tape this year, but I'm watching edge rushers, and and I've watched a little bit during the year, kind of what I was basing things off for. Well, the combine, made a light bulb go off. Like, this guy's got upside as a freak, but kind of remembering what he did during the year. Georgia had him dropping coverage a lot, and he missed a chunk of the season too. And he has explosive get off. He's freaky athletic. He's got more upside in the NFL, just rushing more, And I always said he plays bigger than his size because he's good in terms of run defense. But I don't know if he plays bigger in his size. The more I watch him in run defense, he does. But in terms of actually pass rushing, when the tackle has him, when he's got his hands on him, not even just locked up, like it's hard for him to get off. He's just relying on pure speed. So he has upside because you can want to work with more things. Maybe you can put on some more size. And there's some tape I don't really love. I'm impressed with the run defense. I'm impressed with his ability to drop in coverage as well. So I see the upside, but this is actually more of his range in my opinion. So I was surprised that I'm a little lower on Tyree Wilson depending on where he's going to go, but a lot lower than people on maybe Nolan Smith and Lucas Van Ness, maybe higher on guys than McDonald, Foskey, guy like Derek Hall, maybe BJ Ojulari. So we'll see. But the Bengals, I know they met with Nolan Smith. It's not like their pass rushers they have now. So this is interesting because they have kind of your physical pass rushers. But this is a guy that, a versatile pass rusher that I think they would like to add into what they have. And, and they could be looking, they don't have the speed edge rusher. That's kind of what they're missing. They have OSI, but they could look to add a guy like this and kind of look out for their future as well and just add that extra because they've got a unique defense. That's what the Bengals mix everything up. They give different looks. That's why they're so good. So they kind of can just add to that. In a lot of upside and athleticism here with a guy like Nolan Smith. Maybe just too good to pass on as well. In the Saints, Michael Mayer, who ended up sliding a little bit, in my opinion, the best tight end in the class, and it could be Kincaid around these parts. But, they have Juwan Johnson. I don't think they would be interested in Kincaid. Johnson kind of your athletic, contested catch, receiver type tight end. Had a really good year last year. Michael Mayer, I think can pair with him very well. Maybe just too good to pass on as well. You can put him in line. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. He can block. He already got better as a blocker last year. And I think the Saints will value tight ends. They'll value just weapons. They see a good weapon they can get for Derek Carr here, and it can make a lot of sense. So they grab Mayer. And I do like another Notre Dame player as a fit for them a lot is Isaiah Foskey. But Mayer just kind of too good to pass on as he slipped through a little bit. The Eagles go Will McDonald, who I'm a big fan of. Iowa State had him out of position, and he was still productive, still super productive. The knock on him is he's maybe he's thin. He's too thin. But Iowa State was playing him over and inside the tackle where you have to be physical, and he was super productive. And then whenever they had him standing up outside the tackle, he was getting sacks. So somebody's going to do that. With him, and he's going to be very productive. He was forcing fumbles like crazy as well. Can bend, can fly, super lengthy. So the Eagles grab him with the 30th pick here. Maybe Nolan Smith could slip a little bit longer for them to get. I might have Will McDonald ranked ahead of Nolan Smith, but maybe the Eagles would like him if he slipped through. And then Isaiah Foskey, who I think is going to go earlier than people think as well. Just I feel like a safe pick. The only knock on him is he doesn't really have the bend on the outside, like the flexibility, but he's pretty much got everything else. Physical, athletic, long. He has production. It feels like he still has upside if you kind of work with a little bit more moves, the bend on the outside. And the Chiefs would like him, pair him with Karlaftis long term. That would make some sense there. So Foskey to the Chiefs. Then let's rip through this second round real quick. And of course, you get more if you're a Twitter subscriber. You get weekly podcast episodes and a lot more NFL content. But so the top of the second round, Emmanuel Forbes, who's getting a lot of buzz. He's so light though. It's a little scary. He's so thin, but he's a ball hawk. He's a playmaker. Jalen Hyatt, who I have a first round grade on. Texans would love to have him at 33. Kalijah Cansey to the Cardinals could go in the first round. Team's worried about his length. Jonathan Mingo feels like a Colts receiver, do-it-all type guy. Physical, fast, can block, can play slot, outside. You see him line up at like an H-back tight end. Dalton Kincaid could go first round. I like the fit with the Rams a lot. Not their biggest need, but I really like the fit. Cody Malk, I'm liking a lot as I watched his film. I think this guy's going to be a really good guard. Pass protection could use some help, but I think by putting him at guard and with the Seahawks, how they developed their offensive line last year, makes a lot of sense. He's going to be a really good guard. He could play center for them as well. They could use one or the other, depending on where they want to play Evan Brown. Was only a one-year deal anyways. So I like Malk for them. Keely Ringo, cornerback from Georgia, could go first round. Early second makes sense. Raiders could definitely use that corner, as I did not have them taking one in the first. BJ Ojulari, which I love that outside bend from him. That dip. Oh, it's freaky good. It's freaky good, but there's some other things you got to work on. Got to shed blocks better. It was very weird that he had a bad 3-cone because it looks like he would have an elite 3-cone when watching him on the field. But I think the Panthers, their new look defense, pairing him with Brian Burns, would make some sense there. The Saints thought about pass rusher here, but Quentin Johnston seems like a Saints-type receiver that they could be interested in. I think this is more of his range. He's a risky pick. He's got a lot of upside because he's big, he's fast, really good after the catch. But he, was stuck on one side of the field, kind of did one or two things all year, and he didn't really high point the ball a lot. But you see the freakiness. I think the Saints would like him. So they double up on some weapons for Derek Carr, adding into the mix with Olave, Michael Thomas, and company. Joe Tippmann, I'm liking more and more. I mean, I've always been like, wait till the third or fourth round and take a center. That's kind of how I've always been. But Tippmann, I think, could play guard. I see the upside at guard, especially with his size, too. Titans might take him to play him at guard, but he could play center. I think they would like him a lot. This is really, to me, like the only guy that I would take in a sec, because I'm just not a big take center early guy, which is how I've always been. But this guy is really good. He also can play guard. So this is I did a trade, like a player trade scenario video the other day. You can check that out. We had the Packers getting a second-round pick from the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, and then next year second can turn into a first. So the Packers get this pick, Aaron Rodgers trade that should happen. They grab Darnell Washington, ultimate blocking tight end with freaky upside in the passing. I think the Packers would like him a lot. So they get some weapons for Jordan Love. Jets get MAZI Smith, get that nose tackle to help Quinn Williams out. JAHMYR Gibbs ended up slipping through a little bit. I mean, talent-wise, just skill-wise, first round for sure. But how early do you draft a running back? And then if you do, he better be damn good and he better be an every down guy. I think he can be that because I love me some Gibbs, but he doesn't have the size as an every down guy, so he might slip a little bit because of that. So the Falcons grab him here. Derick Hall, which I'm a fan of. I mean, it's a 4'5" guy with elite length, high motor, production getting after the quarterback. What am I missing here? I mean, people got him like late second, early third. What am I missing here? I know 3 cone wasn't super great, wasn't terrible, which is a big thing for edge rushers, and sometimes struggles to get off blocks in the run game. But I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. I would like him a lot for the Packers. Cam Smith, cornerback for South Carolina, like him outside, could also play inside, and the Patriots would like him. DJ Turner, cornerback from Michigan, getting some buzz, super athletic. But I like the mixture of zone and man and ability to press in both. From Michigan there. So the Commanders grab their corner. Next group, this was from an earlier trade, the Cardinals and Lions. So the Cardinals grabbed their pass rusher Felix and Udike Uzama, edge rusher from Kansas State, who had a monster 3-cone drill, which is huge, and he was pretty productive for Kansas State. So Fitzgannon's defense. This was the interesting one. This is one I kind of felt weird about. Brian Bruzzi in this scenario ended up sliding, and the Bears got this pick from the Steelers in that trade that I have earlier in this. But I keep hearing he's in a slide. I just keep hearing it. I don't know if it's this far, but in this scenario it happened, so it looks like it's realistic. But maybe it's because of the past injuries, and that does tend to happen. Guys that had multiple past injuries, maybe they slide a little bit. And maybe he was he was really good, but maybe he's a little underwhelming because he was a number 1 overall recruit. But the Bears wouldn't pass on him. They wouldn't pass. Eberflus would be perfect. This would be a steal for the Bears. This would be awesome for them. But who knows? Could happen. There's more surprises than this. Matthew Bergeron, which is getting a lot of hype. I don't know about. Like, he's good, really good run blocking tackle. People seem to like him at guard because he's such a good run blocker, but what people don't realize is when he gets beat in pass protection is from straight bull rush, a guy being a strong pass rusher. But NFL defensive tackles, you're talking about the strongest guys in the field perhaps, they're going to push him straight back, collapse that pocket. So I'd probably keep him at tackle. I think it's a little bit of a gamble pick, but he's getting a lot of buzz around here. Carter Warren's a me. That's I'm sliding him up here because I like Carter Warren. I love his tape. His tape says second round all day. Like the talent, all day. He is 24, which isn't a huge deal for me, but he's a little older, and he had an injury for most of last year, so maybe he slides through. No one's really talking about him. He's starting to get a little bit of buzz. 2 guys that start getting buzz after I start talking about it. Darnell, Wright, Carter Warren, a couple offensive linemen there. I loved his tape, though. He's good. He pass protector. Could be better run blocking. Dolphins like to pass a lot. Julius Brent's really good fit with the Seahawks. They grab their corner. Bears, another second-round pick. Keon White, this is more of his range for me. I might have a third-round grade on him because he's a 24-year-old project. You see how big he is, how long he is, the upside, but I'd almost feel comfortable sliding him or playing 3-4-M, but the Bears run that 4-3, so he'd play the edge for them. I think Eberflus like the physical guys off the edge there, so a possibility there, but I don't understand the first round hype. I watched it was last night, 2 nights ago I watched on him, and I was like, I'm going to be lower on him than everyone. Drew Sanders, upside at linebacker. He almost looks better at edge rusher right now, but he has somewhat limited snaps. He had a good amount of snaps there, but way more snaps linebacker. The only thing here is could he be like a Kenneth Murray, a little bit of a scary situation there with the Chargers, but a lot of upside. Could look for that linebacker. Adetomiwa Adebawore to the Lions. I like him inside a little bit more. 3 technique for the Lions, but he could play off the edge as well, but I like him at 3 technique for the Lions. And then the last group of picks here. Jaguars, Antonio Johnson, safety, but I like him in the slot a lot, but he could move around a bit, could come up and hit. Patriots got this in that Giants trade. Tillman, the receiver of the Tennessee, who should go a lot earlier, in my opinion. This is your This is your ex-receiver of the draft. I mean, physical, contested catch guy, better route runner than given credit for. Monster season when he was healthy 2 years ago. He should go earlier, but could be his range. Patriots grab him. Trenton Simpson to the Cowboys. Some of these linebackers starting to slip. They could go earlier in this. Linebacker class is interesting. Deion Henley, former receiver, then safety, then linebacker. I kind of like that. And then really good tape from Washington State. The Bills grab him to replace Edmonds. Luke Musgrave for the Bengals. They get their tight end in the future. Just seems like a Bengals long, deep threat, long tight end option type guy there. Nothing locked in with Irv Smith, obviously. Another one I'm a fan of, Wanya Morris. I think perfect for the Bears. This is a really good fit for the Bears. Bears are a future team. They like upside. They like athleticism at the tackle position. They like length at the tackle position. Morris has all of that. He's a little raw right now. He's got tons of upside. Former 5-star recruit, not getting any talk right now. Kind of remind me of Braxton Jones. I had a second-round grade on. The Bears ended up stealing him later. He ended up working out. So that was a hit for the Bears. And I think myself as well. Morris I like. Seems like, they're looking for a right tackle as well. I like that fit. Maybe they can get him in the third even. Based on what people are talking about, they might be able to get him in the fourth, but I think he goes earlier than people think. Jack Campbell for the Eagles replaced TJ Edwards, who went to the Bears. Then Josh Downs, who I think should go earlier in this. Really good slot receiver, home run type guy. For a small guy, contested catch. I think he fits the Chiefs for sure. So he's a lot better in this. Tillman and Downs should go earlier in this, but they end up sliding through a little bit. So that wraps up my 2-round mock. I really enjoyed this one because a lot of these fits, it made a lot of sense. And a lot of these trades, usually I don't like doing. Usually when I do this many trades, it doesn't make sense. But this one actually made a lot of sense to me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're always talking with you on Twitter. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. You will not regret it. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.